We're now going to speak to the Revd Anderson Jeremiah, a lecturer in world Christianity at Lancaster University, who joins me live from London. Reverend, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. You're also a bishop in the Anglican Church. How was this Catholic Pope Francis seen by other Christians around the world?
Thank you for having me. I think he's probably one of the first popes to be universally accepted right across the Christian community. And he was perhaps eclipsed many of his predecessors in endearing himself to Christians across the globe simply through his message of being attentive to the poor and the marginalized and the rejected. And so he also very fondly welcomed Christians across the traditions and denominations by reaching out to all Christians and drawing them to the message of Christ's love.
He also was a pope who seemed to like to shake things up, if you like, so to speak, in the Catholic Church. For example, I know he would often choose cardinals who weren't the usual types of cardinals, who were chosen from perhaps the usual parts of the world. Was that part of his global diplomacy as well?
Absolutely. And I think he transformed the Curia, which is the heart of the Vatican, which governs the Roman Catholic Church. He also was very attentive to the fact that the global Christianity is primarily rooted in the global south, which is the southern hemisphere of the world. Therefore, he wanted to really reflect those grassroots realities of the Catholic communities in the leadership of the Vatican. So he had to really take some firm decisions which were controversial, but at the same time, he was able to bring the kind of diversity in terms of representation across the global south so that the voices of the most marginalized within the Catholic community and in the global Christianity to be heard in the Vatican. And he himself, as your news reporter said, as the first pope born outside Europe, ensured that that paradigm, that dimension, was always reflected in his message and his leadership.
Do you think the fact that he was the first pope from Latin America, as you say, the first pope, the non-European pope, has opened the door perhaps to another pope from Africa, perhaps, or India, your own country?
Absolutely. I think he changed the worldview of the Roman Catholic Church, in a sense, keeping in step with the changing nature of Christianity itself. I think what Pope Francis did is that the church has shifted its focus to the global south. Therefore, the leadership should reflect that. So what he has done is that he paved the way for leaders from the global south, from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia, to be in positions where they could be considered to be the next leader of the Roman Catholic Church. Therefore, he meticulously worked through his theology, through his teaching, and through his leadership, paved the way and put in place the measures that will help that leadership to be visible. And so whether that is reflected in the next a process of discernment of the leader for the Roman Catholic Church, that is, we need to wait and see. But definitely he has put in place those possibilities so that people from Africa and Asia could even think about it.
I think that is really, truly what's going to be the interesting thing to observe as the weeks and the months go by, is to see how the Catholic Church evolves after Pope Francis, who was more liberal seeming, if not 100% in practice, but giving that notion of being more concerned with the poor, more concerned with social justice issues, more concerned with helping things like gay Catholics, for example. Do you think that the Catholic Church is ready to open that door even wider, or do you think it will slam it shut?
I think what he has done through his papal leadership is, like, particularly there is one point and moment when he visited South Sudan without any notice. He knelt down and kissed the leaders' feet, begging them for peace. So in that point and moment, what he has done is that he has shown what true leadership for the church looks like. Therefore, it would be very difficult for the Roman Catholic Church to step back from the emphasis of peace, emphasis of reconciliation, and also emphasis to reach out across religious divides, which has plagued the church and the global community for centuries. He has really set in motion some of the irreversible steps. Therefore, there might be some pushback, but nevertheless, I think as a church, he has set it in a particular direction of travel, which will be very hard to step back from.
Many Christian denominations, particularly the Roman Catholic Church, had to deal with the issue of corruption in recent years. Tell us a bit more about what Pope Francis did in regard to things like the clergy sexual abuse crisis that rocked the church recently.
Absolutely. I think Pope Francis is probably one of the first leaders to really rethink how Vatican operated, how Vatican was governed. So he also very critically reached out to people so that he can transform the Curie in terms of bringing more transparency, bringing in more accessibility to what goes on behind the doors in Vatican. Remember, Vatican is a city state, therefore it has that potential to set certain agendas. Therefore, what Pope Francis did in terms of clergy, bishops, he took a very firm stand and he didn't step back from removing those who are in office who caused so much harm. Therefore, he was able to demonstrate that there is very little tolerance for abuse within the church. And also, I think recently he has put in place various important cardinals to look into the historical abuse and how the church needs to address in its future, that it will pay attention to any voices of discontent so that it can immediately attend to it. Therefore, he has done more for the church, particularly the Vatican, to respond to those challenges than any of his predecessors.
Reverend, just to wrap up, what do you think Pope Francis's legacy will be as the years go by?
I think he was, as your reporter said, I think he was people's pope right from day one when he refused to live in his apartment, chose to be a guest. That is a legacy that is very hard to eclipse, in a sense that he will be remembered as the people's pope, and also his message of love, hope, tolerance, and charity will last well into the future of the history of Christianity, because he has changed how Vatican, as this closed place of secrecy, he has made the church appeal to young people, particularly, and his love for bringing people into the church. Therefore, his legacy will be one of hospitality and generosity and kindness.
Reverend Anderson Jeremiah, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us on this sad day of the death of Pope Francis. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.